Fade in. Exterior. A city skyline at dusk. The light is dying, bleeding out into a bruised purple horizon. The buildings are just silhouettes now, jagged teeth biting into the sky. We are drifting, floating. Not looking at the grand monuments, but at the windows. Thousands of them, little squares of yellow light. Zoom in. Closer. Closer still. We are looking for a specific window, a specific room. Interior. Kitchen. Night. It is quiet. The kind of quiet that hums. The refrigerator cycles on, a low mechanical shutter. There is a man, let's call him David. He is standing by the sink. The water is running, but he isn't washing anything. He is just watching the water swirl down the drain. Behind him, at the table, sits a woman, Sarah. She is scrolling. The blue light of her phone illuminates her face, washing out the warmth of her skin, turning her into a ghost. David turns off the tap. The silence rushes back in to fill the vacuum. He dries his hands on a towel. He looks at her back. He opens his mouth to speak. He wants to say something about the day, about the strange noise the car is making, about a dream he had where he was running through sand. But he stops. He sees the way her thumb moves, rhythmically, hypnotically. He sees the faint, almost imperceptible smile touching the corner of her lips. It's not a smile for him. It's a smile for the screen. He puts the towel down. He walks out of the room. She doesn't look up. This is the crime scene. We are obsessed with the smoking gun. We are obsessed with the hotel receipts, the lipstick on the collar, the text messages found at 3 a.m. that explicitly detail acts of lust. We think that is the betrayal. We think that is the moment the marriage died. We think the explosion is the tragedy. We are wrong. The explosion is just the sound the building makes when it finally collapses. The structural failure, the rotting of the beams, the rusting of the bolts, that happened years ago. That happened in the silence. Tonight we are going to perform an autopsy, but not on a corpse. We are performing an autopsy on a living relationship to find the cancer before it kills. We are going to deconstruct the most dangerous sign of cheating, and I tell you now, it isn't sex. It isn't even a kiss. It is what comes before desire. It is the withdrawal of attention. Let's go back to David and Sarah. Let's rewind the tape. 6 months ago. They are in a car. It's raining. The wipers are slapping back and forth, a metronome counting down the time. Sarah is driving. David is in the passenger seat. David says, "I'm worried about my mom. She sounded confused on the phone today." This is a bid. In the psychology of relationships, this is known as a bid for emotional connection. David is opening a door. He is stepping out on the porch of their shared intimacy and saying, "I am vulnerable right now. See me." Sarah has 3 choices.
Choice 1. She can turn toward the bid. She can say, "What did she say? Is she okay?" This connects the circuit. Energy flows. The bond strengthens. Choice 2. She can turn against the bid. She can say, "Your mother is always confused, David. I can't deal with this right now. Traffic is terrible." This is an attack. It hurts, but it is still an engagement. It is still contact. Choice 3. The fatal choice. She says nothing. She turns up the radio. This is turning away. It seems harmless. She's tired. It's raining. Maybe she didn't hear him, but she did. She heard him, and in that microsecond, a decision was made. A decision that her internal world, her stress, her thoughts, or the song on the radio was more important than his vulnerability. That moment, that is the first cut. It is microscopic. You can't see it with the naked eye, but it bleeds. And if you stack 10,000 of those moments on top of each other, you build a wall made of silence, a wall made of unacknowledged fears and dismissed joys. Now, let's introduce the third character in this tragedy. We don't see them yet. They don't have a face. They are just a potential, a phantom. Let's call him Mark. Sarah meets Mark at work, or maybe at a coffee shop, or maybe in the comment section of a post. It doesn't matter where. What matters is the dynamic. When Sarah speaks to Mark, Mark listens. Mark doesn't know that Sarah leaves her wet towels on the floor. Mark doesn't know that Sarah can be petty when she's hungry. Mark doesn't know the history of arguments, the mortgage stress, the fatigue of routine. Mark only sees the presentation. He sees the avatar of Sarah, the version of herself she wishes she was. And when Sarah makes a bid for connection, when she makes a joke or complains about the weather, Mark turns toward it. He laughs, he validates, he feeds the ego. Here is the chemistry of the affair. It is not born in the genitals. It is born in the dopamine receptors of the brain that scream, I am being seen. I am interesting again. Back to the kitchen. Present day. David is in the living room now, watching a show he doesn't care about. Sarah is still in the kitchen. She is texting Mark. The content of the text is innocent. Maybe it's about a project at work. Maybe it's a meme. Did you see the email from boss? Crazy. That's the text. If David walked in and saw it, he couldn't claim adultery. He couldn't file for divorce based on crazy. But look at Sarah's heart rate. Look at the dilation of her pupils. Why is she texting him at 9:30 p.m.? Because she is holding a secret. This is the concept of the window and the wall. In a healthy relationship, the couple is surrounded by a wall that protects them from the outside world, and they have a wide open window between them. They see each other. They share everything.
But Sarah has started to build a wall between her and David. She didn't tell him about the joke Mark made. She didn't tell him she was texting. She is bricking up the window to David. Simultaneously, she is carving a window in the outer wall for Mark. She is sharing parts of her inner self with Mark that she is no longer sharing with David. She is complaining to Mark about David. He's just so checked out lately, she types. Mark replies, you deserve to be heard. Boom. That is the sex, right there. That sentence is more intimate, more damaging, and more erotic in a psychological sense than physical contact. It is the validation of the victim narrative. Mark has just become the savior. David has been cast as the villain. And Sarah, she is the heroine in a tragic romance. She isn't cheating with her body yet. She is cheating with her narrative. She is rewriting the story of her life. And in this new draft, David is an obstacle to her happiness, and Mark is the key. This is the danger zone. This is the before desire. It's the comparison. Every time David forgets to take out the trash, Sarah doesn't just get annoyed. She compares him to the fantasy of Mark. Mark is so organized. Mark would never forget. She is comparing a real, flawed human being with whom she shares a mortgage, taxes, flu seasons, and grief to a two-dimensional projection of a person who has zero responsibility for her life. It is an unfair trial. David cannot win. He is fighting a ghost. Let's go deeper. Let's look at the neurochemistry of this phase. When you have been with someone for 10 years, the butterflies are dead. They died a long time ago. They were replaced by oxytocin, the bonding hormone. It's warm, cozy, stable. It feels like a heavy blanket. But dopamine, the thrill hormone, the craving, that comes from novelty. That comes from the unknown. When Sarah's phone buzzes, her brain gives her a hit of dopamine. It's a slot machine. Is it a bill? Is it spam? Or is it him? The unpredictability creates an addiction loop. She starts to resent the stability of David. His predictability becomes boring. His reliability becomes stifling. She starts to crave the chaos of the interaction with Mark. She starts to provoke fights with David. Why? Because she needs a justification. The human mind hates cognitive dissonance. Sarah sees herself as a good person. Good persons don't cheat. So if she is feeling drawn to someone else, there must be a reason. And the reason must be that David is bad. So she picks at him. She finds faults. She amplifies his mistakes. She needs him to be the bad guy so she doesn't have to feel the guilt of her emotional drift. You never listen to me, she yells during a fight about the dishwasher. It's not about the dishwasher. It's about her need to validate the distance she has created. This is the rewriting of history. She looks back at their wedding photos and thinks, I don't think I was ever truly happy. I think I settled.
She is poisoning the past to justify the present. This is the most dangerous sign, the revisionist history. When your partner starts telling you that the happy memories you shared weren't actually that happy, when they start saying, "We've always had problems," when you thought you were solid, run or fight, but know what you were dealing with. You are dealing with a mind that is preparing the exit strategy. Let's visualize the landscape of the betrayal. Imagine a house. This house is the relationship. For years, David and Sarah lived in all the rooms. They laughed in the kitchen, slept in the bedroom, argued in the hallway. But slowly, Sarah has started locking doors. First, she locked the door to her work stress. She stopped telling David about her boss. She told Mark instead. Click. That room is gone. Then she locked the door to her body image insecurities. She stopped asking David if she looked okay. She posted a photo on Instagram and waited for Mark's like. Click. That room is gone. Then she locked the door to her dreams. She wants to travel to Italy. She mentions it to David, and he talks about the budget. She mentions it to Mark, and he sends her a picture of the Amalfi Coast and says, "One day." Click. That room is gone. Eventually, David is standing in the hallway of his own house, and every door is locked. He knocks. "Sarah, are you in there?" And from behind the door, he hears silence. Or worse, he hears her laughing with someone else. The physical act of cheating, the hotel room, the bed, that is just Sarah finally walking out the front door. But she vacated the house months ago. The body is the last thing to leave. The mind leaves first. So how do we spot this? If we are the screenwriters of our own lives, how do we read the subtext before the plot twist ruins us? We look for the secrecy. Not the secrecy of "where were you last night," but the secrecy of the screen. The phone tilt. Watch the phone. When they are sitting next to you on the couch, where is the screen facing? Is it face up? Or is it slightly tilted away? When a notification comes in, do they glance at it and leave it? Or do they snatch it up? Do they take the phone to the bathroom? Every time? Do they have a passcode they suddenly changed? These are the barricades. But more than the phone, look at the energy. The energy leak. A relationship is a closed system of energy. You pour into it, your partner pours into it. When one partner starts pouring their energy, their best jokes, their deepest thoughts, their brightest smiles, into a container outside the relationship depletes. You feel drained. You feel like you are doing all the heavy lifting. You try to plan a date night and they are too tired. But then you see them at a work party and they are the life of the room.
They aren't tired. They are just tired of you, because they have spent their emotional budget elsewhere. This is the tragedy of the work spouse. "Oh, don't worry about him. He's just my work husband. We just joke around." Dangerous words. Because work is a place of shared struggle. It is a foxhole. You bond with people in foxholes. You face a common enemy, the boss, the deadline, the client. That bonding releases oxytocin. If you are not careful, if you do not maintain the boundaries, that camaraderie turns into intimacy. And intimacy, given the right amount of alcohol or stress, turns into desire. It is biological. It is inevitable unless you actively fight it. The most dangerous sign is when the partner stops fighting for the relationship and starts fighting for their right to the friendship. You're being controlling. "I'm allowed to have friends." Yes, you are. But friends don't hide text messages. Friends don't discuss the intimate failings of their marriage. Friends don't fantasize about a life together. When the defense of the friend becomes more passionate than the defense of the marriage is already in second place. Let's pause. Let's look at the screen, the movie of your life. Are you the protagonist, or have you become the antagonist in your partner's story? If you feel the distance, if you hear the silence, do not ignore it. Do not wait for the lipstick on the collar. Confront the silence. Break the lock on the door. David needs to walk into the kitchen. He needs to bypass the sink. He needs to walk up to Sarah, gently take the phone from her hand, Place it face down on the table and say, "I miss you. I feel like you are 1,000 miles away, and I am scared." He needs to strip away the anger, the accusation, the jealousy. He needs to reveal the raw wound. "I am lonely in this house with you." That is a bid, a massive, terrifying bid. And Sarah, she has to make a choice. She has to look at the man in front of her, the man with the tired eyes, the man who knows how she takes her coffee, the man who held her hand at her father's funeral. She has to weigh the reality of this love, heavy, worn, difficult, real, against the fantasy of the dopamine hit. She has to decide if she wants to be an adult or a child chasing a shiny object. Because that's what cheating is at its core. It is a refusal to grow up. It is a refusal to accept that love is not a constant state of euphoria, but a discipline of showing up, even when it's raining, even when the car is making a noise, even when the other person is boring. The most dangerous sign is when we stop showing up, when we check out, when we start living in the what if instead of the what is. The screen fades to black, but the sound continues. We hear the sound of a notification. Ding. And then, a long, heavy silence. Will she pick it up? Or will she speak?
The script is not written yet. You are writing it every day, with every glance, with every text, with every moment you choose to turn toward or turn away. Be the director. Cut the scene before it goes too far. Because once the clothes come off, the movie is already over. The tragedy has already happened. The rest is just the credits rolling on a love that died of neglect. Fade out. Transition to segment 2, the architecture of fantasy. Fade in. Interior, a coffee shop, day. Rain lashes against the window pane, blurring the world outside into a watercolor of grays and muted greens. Inside, the air smells of roasted beans and damp wool. We find Sarah here. She is alone at a small round table, but she isn't really alone. She is waiting. This is the grooming phase, not necessarily by the other person, but by herself. She is grooming her own expectations. She checked her reflection in the shop window before entering. She adjusted her hair. She unbuttoned the top button of her coat. Why? Because she is about to receive a dose of the drug. Mark enters. Freeze frame. Look at his face. He is smiling. It's a bright, easy smile. Why shouldn't it be? He has no stake in this game. He gets the best of Sarah, the witty, attentive, dressed-up version, without the cost of the mortgage or the sick kids. He is playing the game on easy mode. Resume. He sits down. "Hey, you look tired." "I am," Sarah sighs. "David and I were up late arguing about money again." Stop. This is the betrayal. Right here. She has just handed Mark a weapon. She has given him the blueprint to the castle's weaknesses. She has said, "Here is where the wall is crumbling. If you push here, you can get in." Mark nods sympathetically. "That sucks. You don't need that stress. You're so creative. You need space to breathe." He is validating her grievance. He is widening the crack. He isn't necessarily evil. He might even believe he is being a good friend, but the structural damage is being done. He is reinforcing the idea that David is the source of the stress, and he, Mark, is the source of the relief. This is triangulation. David, Sarah, Mark. A stable structure is a line connecting 2 points, David and Sarah. When you add a third point, the energy shifts. If Sarah leans toward Mark, she must lean away from David. It is simple physics. Let's analyze the dialogue of the pre-affair. It is rarely sexual at first. It is almost always existential. "I feel like I don't know who I am anymore. I feel like life is passing me by. I wonder what would have happened if I'd taken that other job in Paris." These are profound, vulnerable statements. They are the kinds of things you should be whispering to your partner in the dark. When you share your existential dread with a third party, you are creating a soul tie. You are saying, "You get me," and the implication is, he doesn't. Let's move the camera to David. Interior, office, day. David is staring at a spreadsheet, but he isn't seeing numbers. He is seeing the back of Sarah's head. He feels it, the gut check. The human intuition is a powerful survival mechanism. We evolved to detect subtle changes in our environment, a snapping twig, a shift in the wind. These meant a predator was near. In a relationship, we detect the shift in the microclimate. David notices that Sarah doesn't laugh at his jokes anymore. He notices that she takes her phone into the shower to listen to music, but the music never starts. He notices that when he hugs her, there's a split-second delay before she hugs back, a hesitation, a flinch. He asks, "Is everything okay?" She says, "I'm fine, just tired." Gaslighting. Not the intentional, malicious kind from the movies, but the subtle, defensive kind. Sarah doesn't want to admit, even to herself, that she is drifting, so she denies the reality that David is perceiving. She tells him his sensors are wrong. "You're being paranoid. Why are you always asking me that?" This makes David doubt his own reality. It creates anxiety. He starts to cling. He becomes the pursuer. And what happens when you pursue someone who is pulling away? They run faster. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. David's insecurity, caused by Sarah's withdrawal, becomes the very thing Sarah cites as the reason she needs space. "He's so clingy," she tells Mark. "He's suffocating me." See the cycle, the loop? It is a death spiral. And it is fueled by the fantasy. Let's talk about the fantasy gap. Real life is boring. It just is. It is laundry and taxes and deciding what to eat for dinner for the 4,000th time. It is hearing the same stories. It is smelling morning breath. The fantasy is perfect. The fantasy has no morning breath. The fantasy is a montage of high points. When Sarah thinks of Mark, she thinks of the witty banter, the intense eye contact, the feeling of being alive. She is comparing David's behind-the-scenes footage with Mark's highlight reel. It is an intellectual dishonesty, but it feels like truth. Because feelings are real, even if they are based on lies. Sarah feels alive with Mark, therefore she concludes Mark is the source of life, and David is the source of death. This is the romance myth, the idea that love is a feeling you fall into, rather than a practice you commit to. If you believe love is just a feeling, then when the feeling fades, you think the love is gone. And if you feel the feeling with someone else, you think this must be real love. It's not. It's just novelty. It's just the brain flooding with chemicals to encourage mating. It is biological trickery. The master screenwriter of our biology wants us to reproduce. It doesn't care about our 30-year anniversary. It cares about genetic diversity. We have to be smarter than our biology. We have to recognize the limerence. Limerence is the state of being infatuated with another person. It involves intrusive thoughts, a desperate desire for reciprocation, and an idealization of the other. It lasts, on average, 18 months to 3 years. If Sarah leaves David for Mark, she will have 18 months of bliss. And then? Then Mark will leave a wet towel on the floor. Then Mark will be too tired to talk. Then Mark will become David. And Sarah will be at a coffee shop, meeting a new man, saying, "Mark just doesn't get me." Unless she breaks the cycle. Unless she realizes that the problem isn't the partner. The problem is the inability to sustain intimacy through the boredom. The problem is the addiction to the spark. Let's go back to the text message. Did you see the email from boss? Crazy? Why is this dangerous? Because of the frequency. It's not one text, it's 50 a day. It's the constant, low-level hum of connection. It creates a digital umbilical cord. Sarah is tethered to Mark. Even when she is cooking dinner for David, her mind is tethered to the phone in her pocket. She is present in body, absent in spirit. This is absent presence. It is the loneliest feeling in the world for the person sitting across the table, to be with someone who is not there. It is a form of abandonment, and it hurts. It triggers the same pain centers in the brain as physical injury. David is in pain, but because there is no proof, because there is no sex,
He feels he has no right to complain. She's just texting a friend, I'm gang crazy. He suppresses his intuition. He swallows the pain. And the resentment grows. Act 3. The crossing. When does the emotional affair become physical? It happens when the opportunity meets the state of mind. The state of mind is already prepared. Sarah has devalued David. She has idealized Mark. She has rewritten her history to justify the betrayal. Now she just needs the opportunity. A business trip, a late night at the office, a moment in the parking lot. It just happened, they always say. We didn't plan it. Lies. You planned it every time you texted him instead of talking to your husband. You planned it every time you complained about your marriage to him. You planned it every time you adjusted your hair before seeing him. You were laying the track, mile by mile, rail by rail. The train arriving at the station was inevitable. The accident was a carefully constructed collision. So what is the antidote? How do we stop the crash? We have to practice radical transparency. If you have nothing to hide, hide nothing. Give your partner your passcode, not because they are controlling, but because you want them to know they have access to your soul. Tell your partner about the crush. Yes, say it. David, I need to tell you something. I've been feeling a spark with this guy Mark at work. It makes me feel seen, and that highlights how lonely I've been feeling with you. I don't want to act on it. I want to fix us.
That conversation is terrifying. It is a bomb, but it is a controlled demolition. It brings the wall down. It takes the power away from the secret. Vampires die in the sunlight. Secrets die when spoken. By telling David, Sarah makes Mark just a guy again. She breaks the fantasy. She invites David into the struggle. And David, he has to listen. He can't explode. He has to say, "Thank you for telling me. That hurts to hear, but I'm glad you told me. Let's figure out why you're lonely." That is intimacy. That is the hard, gritty, unglamorous work of love. It is looking at the rust and saying, "Let's sand this down. Let's repaint." Instead of buying a new car. Because the new car will rust too. The script of long-term love is not a rom-com. It is a drama. It has conflicts. It has dull moments. It has character development. The hero isn't the one who finds the perfect partner. The hero is the one who learns how to love the imperfect partner perfectly. The hero is the one who stays in the room, who puts the phone down, who turns off the tap, dries their hands, and asks, "How was your day?" and actually listens to the answer. We fade out on the kitchen again. David and Sarah. The phone is on the table, face down. It buzzes. They both look at it. Then Sarah reaches out. She picks it up. She powers it off. She looks at David. "I had a dream last night," she says. "I was running through sand." David smiles. It's a small, tentative smile, but it's real. "I had that dream too," he says. Fade to black. Subscribe for more insights on relationship psychology and cinematic storytelling.